What an occasion it was. So 95,179 an ANZAC Day record. 24, 25 degrees, just the most perfect conditions. The Bombers jumped out of the blocks, looked like they had this Collingwood side where they wanted them, and then the 28-point margin at three-quarter time just lent itself to you going, okay, what have they got here? Is there still the Collingwood that can come rattling home from nowhere? And the Bombers, who were brave, were in it right up until the death, but they got there in the end. And all round, it was just a magnificent day, Whispers. And the Pies, they're a juggernaut. They are a juggernaut. The definition of a juggernaut is something that gets rolling and you just can't stop it.
Are they, in your mind, are they better potentially than what they were last year?
I think so, because they've had another 6 months of drilling whatever it is that Craig McRae's brought them, and we know the way they play, and they've got faith and confidence in it, and they're doing it personnel down, and they're still getting the job done. So they were outstanding yesterday. It was great to watch, and I loved what Essendon did early in the piece. I love seeing a new coach come in and impact on a group in a short period of time to the point where, in the first half, this Collingwood team, who I've become so accustomed to watching just go from the back half and move the footy with this freedom and abandon, they just stopped them in their tracks in that first half.
Yeah, they did. And they got on top in the third quarter, and then it looked like they just didn't have the legs to go with them in the last quarter.
Oh, well, that's fair enough. That's something to find out.
Is it though? Is it fair enough to say that? Because why is it that one team can run out a game like that with the power that they did, and the other team just looked like they couldn't go at that level for 4 quarters of football? Is that because they're a younger, inexperienced team?
When I say it's fair enough, it's the assessment. Then you can say, okay, why? If they're fitter, then they're good on them. Then that when Essendon need to get to a standard that Collingwood are at right now. Maybe they've got better players who are, more players who are prepared to work hard and run the lines, and that they haven't. Hobbs and these young blokes haven't quite worked out how far they can push their bodies yet. So, there's a whole host of reasons, but the fact is that they did. They ran, and that's what Brad Scott said. He said, we ran out of petrol tickets, and they looked like they pulled into the petrol station and filled up at three-quarter time.
I'll give you a name that we don't normally talk about this guy, okay, because he doesn't do anything sort of spectacular. He's not considered to be one of the better players in the competition, but Bo McCreary.
Oh, you love him, don't you?
Well, he's so important to that team. Like his power running, he's so quick. He's a great tackler, and he applies pressure at critical stages during a game that matter, like in terms of being able to stall the movement of the ball or stop the movement of the ball or just put a hand or whatever in there to affect the movement of the ball. He is a really underrated player, really underrated player.
He is. And
for a pressure-type player, like he's not kicking bags of goals every week, and he doesn't sit on anyone's shoulders and take a mark, and he's not sort of like a Ginnivan and, like he doesn't attract your attention the same way, but he's become an important player to them.
I appreciate the fact that both of you tipped the Dons. Who says I tipped the Dons?
You don't normally do your tipping until after the game.
That's exactly right. These are some of my observations, and you can just tick them off, right? So I don't have to make any observations on Nick Dacos. I think he's just removed from general conversation.
Can we say that he's a superstar already?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's say he's a superstar.
Do you?
I think he is a superstar.
I think he's a superstar.
I think he's a superstar. And sometimes we rush to label somebody too early, but I think he's put enough behind him now to say that he's a superstar of the game.
Yeah. So we're not glossing over Nick, but Nick, I don't know what more we can say about Nick.
Very little more you can say about him.
He's had more influence than Chris Judd has had. There you go. That's in his second year. And Judd won a Brownlow by the time he was 20. So anyway, we'll just sit back.
Can I just say, if you want to say that, like I was thinking about that comparison yesterday because we were talking about it in the office, and there are things that he does that are actually better than Chris Judd. He's a better kick of the football than Chris Judd ever was.
And I don't even like saying that because Judd was out on his own as well. So Judd did it differently. He went and played midfield. He didn't sort of play halfback flank and not ease his way in, but halfback flank's a whole different concept to playing midfield. Nick can play both. He's shown that he can play both. Don't fall into the trap of thinking he's an outside bludging midfielder. He's an inside animal that every time he goes on the ball,
he can play anywhere.
Impacts. So he can do all of that. But Judd did it from day one in the middle. So they're great in their own rights, and we're just lucky to be able to observe them. So that's. I thought Frampton his competitiveness was really important.
Very good.
Because going in, the Draper, Phillips combination that had just made a mess of Melbourne a week earlier loomed large. So I loved Frampton's competitiveness. The Draper miss. The Draper miss was huge. I don't want to single stuff out, but you got to kick that goal from the 24-minute mark of the last quarter when they'd been overrun. That would have put them back in front. It would have been the adrenaline shot that maybe could have been different. I've got a question for you. Why does Langford start in defence? Why does Brad start Langford in defence?
I don't know. Like the move when he went forward and then they got that matchup that they wanted, which meant that he was there to draw more out and lead up, and then they started to honour that, and he kicked. Like, he really kicked 3 goals. I think the 3 goals he kicked, he was playing effectively on more at the time, and that was the matchup. So that was a great move, but I don't know why they don't start him as a forward, because he has the natural instinct of a forward.
Every time I watch them play, he looks like...
He draws the ball, doesn't he?
Well, he looks like their most natural forward.
That's right. He gets into the right spot. And they are the bare in the forward line, really, in terms of star power
even more to the
marking
point.
players.
And so I wonder what it is. I don't know whether they asked him on 360 last night, but... I'd like to know the answer to that because he's a really good player. Pendlebury is timeless, which is, again, not telling people anything they don't know. But 3 times he's gone to Anzac Day and 3 times he's walked away with an Anzac Day medal. He again, he's a bit like Nick Dacos. Everything that's been said about Scott has already been said, but the fact is he's still doing it. So I thought he was so influential in that match yesterday.
Is he a banana? Is he? Why do they all peel off him? Did you notice that yesterday? It was almost like they'd been directed that when he has the ball, don't go at him, just peel away. Like it was extraordinary how much space. He didn't even have to create the space for himself because nobody wanted to go near him. But you're right. I don't think his level of football has dropped off at all.
No.
Like his running capacity, his thoughtfulness around the ground, the way that he links, his creativity, all that sort of stuff is his direction that he gives up. Nothing has dropped off in his game at all at his age, which is extraordinary.
And people are screaming out, why haven't you spoken about De Goey? These are just little observations.
Yeah. And the De Goey stuff is obvious in a lot of ways, yeah.
The Frampton goal in the last goal, we showed this on the couch last night. The celebration of the Frampton goal there was a symbolism to it because even Darcy Moore got there. So Darcy's playing full back. And it was like they'd said, hey, we get the first one, then we're on. And he got the first one and they, the smiles on their face. It was a goal of affirmation. See, here we go. And then you put a little bit of doubt in Essendon's mind and then we know what happens. They kicked 7 goals to none in the last quarter. I thought that was significant. And Darcy Moore's speech we've spoken about it and played it already. And then his ability to dominate early was what a player he is. And then Essendon went to work on him, which was a great reaction from a coach, which is what you want from a coaching group. You don't want a coach to sit there and go, Darcy Moore's got our measure. You go there and coach it. You go, okay, we're going to go around him, we're going to go through his man, we're going to do something. Yeah. And I like the way that Essendon reacted. So they're my little observations.
How much better, in terms of where Essendon sit right now, are they up to their ears in being a top 8 side by the end of the season, do you think? Or have you not seen enough of everybody else yet to make that conclusion?
I think they're going to be a really strong contender. I wouldn't say right now that I'm absolutely penciling them in, but what I would say is that I'm really confident in the projection of where they're going. So whether that has them in the 8 by the end of the year, don't know. Lots of stuff can happen between now and then. But if you're I always think of you when I talk about Essendon. If you're an Essendon fan, the confusion of years gone by where you're not quite sure what they're trying to do dissipates every week. Because every week you get, okay, I see that. I see how they're trying to defend. I see how they've stopped this unbelievable Collingwood force in the first half. Now, they did it for 3 quarters. They weren't able to do it for 4. Now, but around 16, they might be able to because it's been coached a bit more. They go back and they do their reviews today and they say, hey, look at this, or we didn't gut run hard enough, or whatever it is. Yeah, I like what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. That text message, Langford's first 2 goals were on Rusco. That is quite right. I did forget about that.
They rolled him across.
They rolled more across to him after he kicked the 2 goals on Rusco. Yeah, that's true. So I'm sorry about that. The other guy, do you want to finish? Is there anything else that you want to say about that game yesterday, statistically, that you brought to the table last night? Or not?
No, it was just the way it was played and the fact that they were able to score from back half early and then it gets shut down. It was just it was a great game of footy for a purist to watch, and if you wanted to even dig deeper, there was even better stuff
What an occasion it was at the G. So 180,000 across the 2 days at the MCG, the biggest ANZAC Day crowd ever, of course. And you got to go all the way back for the history buffs to 1958 to find a bigger home and away crowd. 99,000 for the D's and Collingwood.
Unreal. That was a great crowd for Melbourne.
Yeah, it was 83,985. So their biggest ever too.
So what are you raising your eyebrows?
75% of the people there were Richmond fans. I told you that.
Now, honestly,
I told you that. I counted them.
You've said some good things today. You've also said some stupid things.
I froze.
And that could be the stupidest.
I paused.
So 75% of the crowd on Monday night were Richmond, was it?
I paused the screen at one stage and I counted them.
Come for him.
And all the Richmond scarves.
Demon fans, 75%. Come for him. I'll give his mobile number out. The Demons.
Don't go me socials.
They're not.
I'm going to call them socials from now on.
They're not.
Is that what they are, socials?
Greatest attenders of all time, the Demons, but they turned up in numbers on Thursday.
Great crowd.
Don't backtrack.
Oh,
Great crowd.
Okay.
Hey, the MRO, a watch on bomber Jai Caldwell for that little gut punch on Nick Dacos. Third quarter MCG yesterday. Now, Dacos had tackled Caldwell to the ground. The Essendon player throws a little left jab. So this will come down to how Michael Christian assesses the force. It's intentional, it's body. If it's low impact, it's a fine. If it's medium impact, it's a weak. You'd like to think it's going to be a fine, but
it's a low, isn't it?
I go $5,000 for the fine plus a $2,500 loading for stupidity.
Yeah, and it was that.
$7,500.
And the mood the MRO's been in of late, you're never quite sure, but surely it'll be low impact. So
they got to get the doctor's report, do they not? When they
medical
determine
report,
this,
yep, always comes out.
So if he's bruised or what? Is he? Oh, he's got a bruise, has he? He's got a bruise, has he?
He's got a six-pack. He bounced right off.
I'll tell you what,
stay down for a while.
If he bruises, he's like a Fuji apple.
Now, Essendon, like Collingwood, shortchanged obviously on the recovery time for round 7. So the Bombers have Geelong with 3 less days prep. Collingwood have 2 less days than Adelaide, but of course this is the nature of the fixturing around ANZAC Day, of course, nature of the beast. Now, Scott Pendlebury, he was taken last night to see an eye specialist. He copped that poke in the eye.
Can you clear something up for me? Did the blood...
I think it was from the nose.
Yeah,
I think it was from the nose.
I had this argument with someone yesterday. I said he wasn't bleeding from the eye.
It was dripping out of him. I thought, surely that's
I know there's a bad eye injury, but surely that blood wasn't coming out of his eyeball.
I'm pretty sure it came out of the nose, but we'll wait.
You've been watching too many
horror movies.
Stephen King films, you have.
I said it came out of his nose.
So Sam Duran collected him in the last quarter. He was in a fair bit of pain, the former skipper. So he went down in the rooms with the doctor. He attempted to come back on, but he didn't. So he went and saw a specialist. I mean, the Pies are confident he'll be okay for this week, but obviously not a part of the body you want to be mucking around with, so he didn't come back on. Jaden Laverde, I reckon this is a 50-50. So shoulder injury, it's an AC joint. It's going to see him miss some footballs, but it's a wait and see on whether he needs an operation or not, given the severity. So scans this morning, can he get by with a couple of weeks rest for it to come good, or does he need to go under the knife? That's still to be determined. But he's a key pillar in that defence, of course.
Yeah, this is not the first time he's done it this year either, is it? He heard it, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I remember him going down with a shoulder.
They can come good on their own with a period of rest, I think, depending on
my area.
No, well, you tell me, Garry.
What are you talking about? I haven't been listening.
The ACs. AC
joint.
No,
jab. No, absolutely. Unless there's a total separation, totally jabbable.
Yeah,
okay, righto.
Listen to the doctor.
You concur? All right, as has been the case for a long time now, everything you hear on Grapevine is coming up positive for Tasmania. In fact, it's more than that now. It's given it's widely expected that the Feds will commit that $240 million towards a new stadium at Hobart's Macquarie Point, potentially pre-budget announcement by the end of this week, if not early next week. So it's $375 million from Jeremy Rockliff's Tasmanian government, $240 million from the federal government, $85 million from land sale commercial use, $15 million from the AFL, who will then pour in, as we know, over a decade, $210 million in base funding for the club's operations and list establishment, $100 million in game development, $33 million to talent academies. The stadium has been incredibly divisive down there, depending on who you speak to in the street.
You read the politics a lot better than most people.
What are you?
Well, there's always a reason why people do what they do, and there's always deals below the surface here. What would it be?
Votes, Tim.
Votes?
Of course.
Right.
But votes. Let's not forget that we went through this with Adelaide as well, with Adelaide Oval. I mean, there were people in Adelaide that would march down the Rundle Mall saying, don't you dare touch this magnificent, beautiful boutique stadium we've got where we can all sit on the hill. And now look at it. It's one of the iconic pieces of Adelaide. So I understand that people can all get a little bit up in arms, but in 10 years' time, this will be, I think this will be great for Tassie.
So the league tight-lipped in their statement as well, simply saying the AFL continues to work with the Tasmanian State Government on the proposal for a 19th licence and awaits the federal government budget announcement in May. But it's going to go ahead, and when it does, though, I wonder if it'll have a roof, because in all the plans, it's had a north-facing transparent roof and a solid roof at southern end. But the issue they've got, and they have had right throughout, is that international cricket can't be played under a roof as per ICC rules. So you're not going to build a $715 million stadium and play Test cricket over the river at Belle Reeve. So the state government's strategic business case for the stadium does include international cricket among the events that could be hosted
is it not
at the ground.
retractable?
No, it's never been retractable. It's been a solid, transparent roof.
The ICC got to wake up, don't they?
Well,
Yeah,
so here's the thing. It's sounding as though it might not have a roof in the final concept plans, and if it does, do they then back themselves that in the period of 5 years the ICC bend, like Wimbledon's got a retractable roof now?
Can I be stupid and just say, why haven't we got a retractable roof?
Well, I think that would
More
blow the budget out.
Yeah,
More expensive.
No, I understand that, but surely in 10, 15 years' time, we're not going to sit there and go, geez, we should have put a retractable in this.
Well, the landscaper in me says, how do you grow the grass if you've got a roof over it permanently?
Well, it's like
Respect.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to bring perspective to it, but I can't see how you're going to grow grass successfully with a roof over it.
Can it survive without a roof down there?
It'd be like I guess
But
like
that
a
was
hot
the
house.
whole idea,
It's like a
wasn't
hot
it?
house then, isn't it?
It's Brisbane and Tassie's a beautiful. I'm a Tasmanian, so I can say this.
I had to have a look.
Place,
I had to have a look there, guys. So, according to average annual rainfall, the second driest capital city in the country.
Bit cold.
Oh, a little bit of cold. Everywhere's cold. Melbourne's cold.
No, fair enough.
Can we get back to the grass
Sorry about
situation? How are they going to grow grass with a roof over the top?
Perspect.
I know you're saying that as
Like
though
a hot, well, then
it's
it
like
becomes
a hot
like
house.
a hot house.
Yeah, I don't see
It'll
that.
grow that much, Whispers will be up over the goalposts.
Well, they're going to have.
If you don't mow it in
They
the
have
first
to
week.
mow it a quarter time, half time, and three-quarter
That's
time.
right. Have some hydroponics around the boundary.
Oh, you think it'll be growing too fast?
Well, I'm intrigued. I'm being quite serious now. Being a former landscaper, I am very, very intrigued as to how you would keep the grass shaped like that, grown year round, with the roof over that's non-retractable.
Well, the light still comes through, doesn't it?
That's right, Whispers, it does. You've got a hot house.
Anywho, so it's 5 years away, of course, from being operational. So who's to say the ICC won't change the rules and allow international cricket under a roof? It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But first and foremost, they need the funding.
They do. Simon's just given us a most passionate text about why, if there's people that don't like that, don't support it.
Yep.
He's gone chapter and verse on Tassie tourism's gone not nuts, the population growth. He's gone way into deep there.
I was quite struck, though, by how opposed to it a lot of the locals are. I was down there a couple of weeks ago. It was quite amazing. It's a passionate subject.
Well, they're going to, by the sound of it, they're going to lose that vote.
It does. It
sounds like
that
that.
way.
I'm more interested now also in how they're going to put this team together and what their plans are, because they've got time to actually plan it. Do they sort of try and fast track the best young talent in the country? Like say 14-year-olds, are they identifying them now and putting them into some sort of academy whereby they're going to be able to give them specialised training and specific training, that type of thing? Because you've got to develop a talent pool for this team, don't you?
Approach Peter Dacos and see
Get him to
back into the harness.
what?
His children are just the most extraordinary footballers.